Welcome to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower, where we do our best to give you useful information in 20 minutes or less. Now, here's your host, 5-time Voice Arts Awards nominee, David Brower.
Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Debra Roberts.
How things ratchet up is what I describe about how if we're having a conversation and I say something to you and your reaction is not what I expected, but you jump up a notch. My job in that moment is to say, wait a minute, what did I just say that made you get so upset?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to catch it right there and give you an opportunity to be self-reflective and say, well, I didn't like the way you spoke to me, or whatever you said really ticked me off, or, whatever it is. But that requires that both people are willing to, as I say, hit the pause button and think. More internally of what set me off. I mean, I can teach people how to go further with it to understand where that might have come from. But just acknowledging that you had an irrational, we call it, reaction to something, over-the-top reaction, more emotional reaction than was necessary or expected, given whatever the conversation, was about.
We've been very blessed in our relationship in many ways, but one that we always seem to come back and talk to each other about is hitting the pause button is certainly right, but also trying to figure out relatively quickly what were the intentions. If my wife, if I hit a fuse for my wife and she goes ballistic, I'm going, is that really about me? Is that I don't know, she looks and acts like her mom. Maybe that's something there. Maybe I'll just shut up and let her process it for a while, and try to figure out what her intentions were that way. Otherwise, I'm immediately taking things personally and I'm ratcheting up inappropriately.
Well, if in fact you're doing what you're saying you're doing, then you have an ability to be in the relationship, but also aware of what I was saying before, where you're observing things while you're in it. So you're being less reactive, which is pretty marvelous, by the way. Pretty impressive.
It's a gift. I can't even tell you. It really is a gift. It really is. Yeah.
And so being able to do that, you are talking about step 3 of the model, which is trusting the other person's intentions. And that goes with, even to the point where if you said to your wife, hey, I don't like the way you're talking to me, even if I'm not taking it personally, I don't like the way you're talking to me, and because her intention is not to be hurtful to you, but she unintentionally hurt you, then that part is on her to say, hey, you know what, I'm really sorry that I hurt you, that I said it to you that way. If I take ownership, and then you, in turn, give me the benefit of the doubt, that I meant my apology, and that gives, or her, in this case, and that's how we move past something, because we've both owned our parts, we let it go, and we try to move on, if we can, to the best of our ability.
To the best of our ability on any given day, that's right.
Yeah, and if I don't trust your intentions, we're having a different conversation. Then we need to talk about why. Has trust been broken, or have you done something that indicated to me that your intentions were not, again, back to what I said before, you're saying one thing but doing another, which breaks trust.
Absolutely. And then the fourth point, am I reading ahead too much?
No, go right ahead.
So what's the
I don't know where you're going.
I'm just going to you mentioned the third point, and I'm interested in the fourth.
Well, the fourth is, so why don't I do them for you so you have them in an order?
Sounds good.
So I'll go to the beginning quickly. There are 2 key elements and 4 steps to the relationship protocol model. So the 2 key elements are commitment and shifting your thinking. The commitment piece is that foundation that we need to feel secure in any relationship.
Yeah.
And our behavior and everything about who we are when we are with the person and not with the person, everything that we do indicates that we have both feet in to the relationship. And this is business relationships as well, family, whatever it is.
Right.
And then shifting your thinking is valuing the person. You're important to me and I value you, and you know that. And if you don't know that, then it's on me to figure out how and find out how to let you know that, because that's important. And then the 4 steps, and those 2, by the way, key elements, the 2 key elements exist in every healthy relationship naturally.
That makes sense. Okay.
So when there's a struggle or kind of a disconnect, the goal is to come back to the key elements or find out how to get back to that commitment and that shift in your thinking so that it's more of a relationship focus. The 4 steps are the how-tos, how to have the conversation. So the first step is what I mentioned before. I want to get along, not fight, be closer. That's how I start a conversation, so I state my intentions up front. Or I can use that if I notice that people, that we're having an argument, and I say, wait a minute, I want to get along with you, I don't want to fight.
Yeah.
So we can kind of nip that. The second step is I'm going to be kind, not mean or sarcastic. Well, I mean, I don't know if I need to even explore that one, but kindness is what makes us feel safe. And
it does.
Anything,
it does.
Yeah.
And especially, and it's interesting. I paused there for a moment because I'm a very sarcastic person, and but yet I'm not so much around my wife because I'm more in tune with how she receives things, reacts to things, or whatever. And sarcasm is kind of it's like humor when I was a kid. It's kind of a safety mechanism that I can go to kind of not show my real feelings, right?
Well, to your point, sarcasm, I'm not anti-sarcasm, although most people that know me would think I might be. But if the relationship isn't clean, particularly if there's conflict, if I don't really know how I feel about you, we're not getting along great, don't be sarcastic, because I'm only going to hear the underbelly of it. I'm not going to think you're funny. I promise.
No, that's right. That's right.
And I think what you're saying about your wife is she's someone who just doesn't see that humor as funny. So, she really doesn't appreciate it in general.
Well, yeah, she's very black and white, and I'm a 12-year-old kid at times, and that's not a good time to go to McDonald's. But
exactly, with the Happy Meal.
Exactly right.
And then the only other thing that I would throw in is just the last 2 steps. Step 3 is I'll never do anything to intentionally hurt you.
Yep.
And that's where if I do, if you let me know, I will own it.
Yep.
And step 4 is I will give you the benefit of the doubt. And I will give you the benefit of the doubt for all of the relationship protocol because I know you're making an effort and that your apology was authentic. And that's how we sort of encapsulate, how we have a relationship that can be healthy and communicative and not so complicated.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's interesting to me about apologies. And I want to say sometimes people apologize through actions rather than words. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And some people find it easier to apologize verbally. Other people don't. So how do you, is that again giving them the benefit of the doubt of how they're communicating and how they're feeling?
Everything that I say about communication, none of it is in stone.
Right.
I think if you can verbalize it, terrific. But if that's not in your wheelhouse and you want to write it or through your actions, who's to say that that's the wrong way to do it? As long as the other person can receive it the way you intend it, that's the most important thing. And if they're not, point it out to them.
Well, yeah.
You might have missed it, but...
Hello, I'm over here.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's when I say it's not complicated because I don't really want to set rules for it. I just want to give people a framework and a perspective for understanding how to have conversations and just really how to talk to each other, how to compromise and just get along in a freer, easier, more positive way.
So as they go through your book, Relationship Protocol, How to Talk, Defuse, and Build Healthier Relationships, is it a step-by-step? Is it a workbook? I can go to chapter 4 because I'm not interested in 2 right now? How does your book work?
Well, the funny part about that question is I know that some people don't love to read a whole book. So early on, I say, if you want to get the gist of what I'm trying to say here, just read, I think it's chapter 2.
Okay.
Because the whole model is in there. How I did it was I broke it down where, for the most part, each component has its own chapter where I explain what it is and I give examples. There's over 60 examples in the book of just real life examples to show you how to implement it. And talks about conflicts, how to handle different conflicts, how to rebuild trust. What if it's not working? What if we don't see progress? How to handle stress and trauma. I'll tell you a good little story. When I first wrote the book, I brought it as a Word document to a woman who was an editor in Manhattan, a lovely woman, and she was the first person to read it outside of my family and friends. And when I went to meet with her to get her thoughts on the book and her edits, she said, "I want to tell you a story."
Oh, wow.
She said, "My boyfriend called me up the other day, and he said, 'Why are you being so nice to me?' And she said, I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "You're different. In the last week or so, you've just been really different, and I really like it. What are you doing differently?"
Oh, my gosh.
This is a true story. And she said, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm the same person." She hung up the phone, and she said she was laughing to herself that all she had done was read my, what she called, manuscript.
Oh, my gosh.
And by osmosis, she started realizing, I'm not always so kind, or I think I cut him off, or I don't think I own my stuff. And she said it just got her to think differently, because this is a way of life. It's not anything fancy, psychologically mumbo-jumbo-ish. It's just how people talk to each other. So
I got the biggest goosebumps on that story. Oh, my gosh. I love that. Right?
Yeah.
And one of the things about your book is, as you describe it with some of the bullet points and stuff, is what you just said a moment ago. This is not a book about therapy with fancy psychological terms. It's an easy-to-read self-help book, and that's where the desire, again, comes in, right? You have to have the desire to want to help yourself, to help your business relationship, to help your family relationship with that. I mean, it all goes back to simplicity and desire and hope, I think.
Exactly. And we all need to be confident and effective communicators, because then the quality of all of our relationships gets elevated.
Yeah.
Every relationship you have is affected by the quality of your communication. So everything moves to a higher level.
Well, I mean, the story you just shared with that lady and her boyfriend, I mean, if that's not, if that doesn't need to be carved in granite, I don't know what does. That's like, I'm sorry, could you say that on video? Because I can sell 10,000 more books from your story, That's such a wonder, because it's so true. It's such a wonderful story because it's authentic.
Well, thank you.
Wow. So people want to learn more about you and your relationship protocol. What's the best way? I know your book's available on Amazon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also iBooks and Kindle and all of that. Okay. And I have a website, therelationshipprotocol.com. Check it out. Join my mailing list.
Nice.
Happy to answer any questions that people have. It's a pretty simple process.
It's a wonderfully laid out website, folks. If you take the time to go there, you'll see my communication tools. You'll learn about Debra. You can get the book. Simple Tools course, which I like a lot. A blog that's really interesting because, again, it's very simple but detailed, and a way for them, of course, to reach out to you. And the other thing that's really great about your website, I think, that really speak to people, because more and more we're interested in video, I think. We are, right? We don't interact, media-wise anyway, we don't interact as well with audio as much as we do video. And so to have some of your interviews on there, but more importantly, a lot of your testimonials on there that are very genuine. I think if people will just watch a few of those, they'll go, oh, now I get it.
Oh, thank you. I'm actually also going to be making some changes to it and adding some more testimonials and more videos from
because they're so well done. I mean, they're so genuine, man.
I love that.
Love it. Relationship Protocol.
Listen to your 20-minute podcast with David Brower on the go. Downloads are available on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, any podcast app, and on our website at davidbrowervo.com/your20-minute podcast. Until next time, thank you for listening.